Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a fantastic day. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. You already know there's always a lot of things that we have to cover. For some reason, today is another one of those gigantically major monstrous days that we have in the cryptocurrency space. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says Bitcoin bull market still on as Bitcoin continues to climb a wall of worry. We are in this never-ending. What's the term between a rock and a hard place? We are constantly there, and we have been there over the course of the last 2 years. There are a large number of analysts who are announcing that the bull market is still intact regardless of the price drops. This is simply a weird series of events that was brought on by the SEC. Prices are still okay, according to all this analysts, and the current predictions are, for those of you not looking at the screen, this is also quite, widely shared. Michael Saylor predicts Bitcoin dominance will double. Here's why. People basically believe that as we get closer to the next Bitcoin halving, it is now less than a year away, Bitcoin's dominance will begin to rise in anticipation of the halving happening, but also people accumulating Bitcoin in anticipation of other people FOMOing into the market to buy it as the Bitcoin supply or the issuance rate gets cut in half. Michael Saylor is definitely a maximalistic kind of guy, and his prediction is kind of intense compared to other ones. He basically believes that this is kind of the beginning of the end game for a number of altcoins, that Bitcoin will simply become the largest coin, having a 60, 70, or 80% dominance within the cryptocurrency market. And he thinks that all the things that have been happening with the SEC are kind of just the tick in that actual direction. But besides that, most of the price news, I thought it ridiculous to have 15 different tabs showing you over and over and over how many people are optimistic with prices or where prices are going to go. Therefore, I only have a few. Tying directly into this, as I said at the beginning of the video, for some reason, every day is a big day in crypto. I know it may not seem like it, or a lot of times you see my titles and you go, TMI, it can't be a big day every day. Well, guess what, guy? It definitely is. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says S&P 500 futures rise as Wall Street counts down to the Fed's decision. Yep. It's another one of those days. Today, the Federal Reserve is going to stand at a podium, and they're going to announce a bunch of numbers, and those numbers are going to make markets move. Yesterday, we heard that I think the target rate for inflation this month or the month before was supposed to be, I believe, 4.1 or 4.2%, and we ended up hitting in the United States 4%. So it was lower than expected. The last couple of, I think, 10 days or so, apparently the Fed has been doing things in the background. And there's now, people believe that there is a 90% chance that the Fed is going to actually halt their interest rate hikes. But we've heard this before. We heard this in February, we heard this in March, we heard this in April, and we sure as heck heard it in May. And now in June, the indication is that as inflation has fallen, as CPI data came in okay, I think the jobless rate also went down. There are a whole bunch of different metrics that the Fed goes on, that the idea is that they are this month going to stop raising interest rates as they've been doing it for 10 months, 12 months straight. I think that's what it was. I forgot exactly what the number was. And therefore, if that does happen, then of course prices will probably skyrocket across the board. It says Bitcoin price prediction and potential breakout. Eyes on the FOMC meeting and the Fed rate hike. Yep, it's all happening today. So yet again, another gigantic day for the market. It happened sometime in the afternoon within the United States. I don't know what time that is for the rest of the world. You can definitely Google when the Fed is going to have their meeting. And even for the stocks that are currently going up, I think everyone's very, very, very cautious right now. Stock markets are up by like 0.14% and 0.2% as far as their future. So things are in the green because people expect them to stop raising rates, but they might still do it. We've heard for a while that they were thinking of stopping, and lo and behold, here we are. So at the moment, despite all the price crashes and falls that we've seen over the last 10 or so days because of the SEC, everyone is apparently quite optimistic that if the stock market moves up, if the Fed stops raising interest rates, at least for right now, the stock market will rise. We will rise in tandem with them. I think sometime last week, the stock markets were rising around the world and the cryptocurrency market was going down because of the SEC thing, and people were commenting that it seems like we finally decoupled from the stock market. No, we're in the exact same place as before. It's just that the heavy-handed actions of the SEC had a major effect on a number of coins, and therefore, you know the rest. That's the price news as we have it right now, at least. And yeah, let's move on. In what can only be described as the most popular news story of the day and maybe for the rest of the week, it says Hinman emails revealed the 2018 speech on Ether drew input from multiple SEC officials. For those of you who have no idea what I just said, since around to the end of 2020, the team from Ripple has been dealing with a lawsuit from the SEC, and I find time very fascinating. Back in 2020, so many people made fun of Ripple for being in trouble with the SEC, and now that many other people have their coins in trouble with the SEC, I no longer hear people making fun of Ripple because I told you this was going to happen. This wasn't the SEC trying to figure out a way to just get one company in trouble. They went after the third largest coin on purpose so that if they get control of the then third largest coin, they would get control over the rest of the cryptocurrency market. Wow, crazy how I was right? See how time works out? I told you all of this years ago. So as it stands right now, the Ripple team has been asking for something called the Hinman documents for a number of years now. It is believed, or was believed, is believed, I don't know, that the guy named Hinman, apparently and a bunch of other people came together to discuss, it is believed that these people came together to discuss which coins fall under their jurisdiction or control, yada, yada, yada. Apparently within the documents from Hinman, it explicitly says or states why Bitcoin and Ether are not securities and why they, didn't fall under the security category. And Ripple has wanted this information to be public, and they've been asking for more than 2 years. Remember, we were talking about before last summer, Ripple kept on asking the judge to tell the SEC to reveal the documents or anything in general. And it took the SEC 28 days to write back an email that basically said no. Like, that was literally what ended up taking place. So now the documents have been revealed and people have been scouring through them. Apparently, it says, I haven't read them and I'm not going to read them. I don't have the time. It says somewhere within the documents as to why Ether is not a security. The idea is, as I told you before in other videos, if you can get the exact information or language as to why something isn't a what, you can basically mimic that. So if somewhere in the emails or the documents it says, Ethereum has 500 nodes. There are currently 100,000 wallets. There's currently this many so-and-so and so. And XRP is able to mimic those numbers. Well, therefore, neither one of those coins would then be considered a security. So the emails have been released. I haven't looked through them, but everyone is completely losing their minds over whatever was inside of them. It says unveiled Hinman documents confirm Bitcoin and Ether not securities. Okay, sure. A potential boost for XRP's price and Ripple Labs. XRP actually did begin going up in price when this information was released. And then 12 hours ago or something like that, Bitcoin's price once again slammed down in what I can only assume is active market manipulation, because these movements down for Bitcoin's price, they don't seem organic. It's not like a period where people are panicking and things fall down. Like there's like a straight line completely going down, which means that a large whale was selling off in anticipation of something or simply trying to actually move the price. Ripple CEO on Hinman email says, I don't have a single polite word. I'm sure he's angry. The news now is that I believe the company Ripple has spent over $200 million on this lawsuit alone. So I don't assume that they are the happiest company in the world right now, especially when, as I've been saying for a while, if we from the outside looking in understand that the SEC is incredibly corrupt, I can't imagine what it's like being a multi-billion-dollar company trying to follow the rules, and you still receive letters in the mail that says that you're doing something wrong. You're in trouble for something, what have you. So apparently this is groundbreaking. Everyone has completely lost it. It says XRP jumps after highly anticipated Hinman documents are unsealed. And this is also something as well. It says Ripple legal chief calls for investigation into former SEC director Hinman. Apparently something was found. I'm myself shocked as to why the guy who filed the lawsuit against Ripple on his last day in office, why there's not more stuff circulating around him. It seems abundantly clear to me that he is a large piece of the puzzle. You know how like when we were younger, they had like those like puzzles, like with the puzzle pieces, but there were only 4 pieces. He's like 3 of the entirety of the pieces. You wouldn't do something like that on your last day in office unless it was completely targeted and focused. I have a very strange feeling. This is my opinion after having been in this space for a long time. A lot of lobbying goes on in all facets of the US world and the US market. And I feel like at some point Ripple was probably told to pay their dues, and they were like, no, why should we? Like, we just need proper regulation. And I think this is why they probably got in trouble. It feels like a bit of a shakedown is constantly happening behind the scenes. Do you remember this was in 2020? Maybe 2021. There were like circling rumors that someone was going to say that Ethereum was a security from some higher up in some company or something like that. And then I don't remember what it was. We got news that someone had a discussion with someone from the SEC, and that entire idea of Ethereum once again being called a security completely evaporated. I have a very strange feeling the SEC, that other guy, they're all tied together, where they're basically asking people to give them money, and those who gave the money are kind of going off scot-free. But, that's once again just my opinion, having put all the puzzle pieces together. So yeah, that's the Ripple news. That's the XRP news. Everyone is a little riled up right now, talking about exactly what all of this might actually mean. So we'll see if it means something. I know it's quite significant, and I know I'm not the only one. I saw someone say this on Twitter, and I was like, I'm right there with you. I just want the lawsuit to end. Either way, Ripple and the crypto market will do just fine. We just need this to like kind of pass. It's been such a huge topic of discussion for so long that it's like, okay, cool. That's amazing. You guys got documents and emails. Like, we don't need the documents and the emails to know that the SEC is terrible and corrupt. If the lawsuit ends tomorrow and it's not in Ripple's favor, 6 months after, people will have forgotten, and Ripple will continue doing business around the world as they've been doing. And even more so, as they will fall under the jurisdiction, the law, the rule of the SEC, they'll then be properly regulated, which will then allow banks and other companies to legally be able to get into Ripple and work with them. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there is no lose situation for Ripple here. If the SEC is kind of their overlord, All paperwork will simply have to go through the SEC, but they'll still be able to do things within America. If they win the lawsuit and XRP is not considered a security, well, then it 5x's from where it would have been anyway if the coin ends up being a security. There is no losing situation for them. It's just more like, why is this dragging on for so long? I don't know. It should not take this long, and I still wonder exactly what that judge is doing because, you know, it's been 2 years now. That's the Ripple news. Yeah. Also, for those of you who missed it, in cringy news, I'm so tired of the SEC, and in the very beginning in 2018, the idea of like crypto regulations was like something that seemed very far away, but also like very abstract. Like we knew something was going to happen, but then we're finally here. And it's this really weird, like, I don't know. Like if you're going to do it, just kind of do it as opposed to like doing this really weird, like sneak around way. It's clear to me that the SEC is only doing this for money. I can't phrase it any other way. It has nothing to do with regulation. It has to do with power. It has to do with flexing. It has to do with showing other institutions that, you know, we are the ones who have the backing. We are the ones who have the power. A couple of days ago, when the lawsuit against Binance from the SEC first began, Binance US, as Binance, the other one, can normally still operate everywhere around the world except for Nigeria, which is gigantic question mark. I don't know. Also something going on there. The news was that the SEC was trying to freeze all funds from Binance US, basically stopping them from being able to trade or offer services, what have you. Binance also announced that they would be shifting to a crypto-only exchange and would no longer be accepting US dollar deposits within the United States. So after the SEC came forward and they were talking about they were trying to freeze Binance's assets, for those of you not looking at the screen, it says SEC and Binance seek a compromise on US assets freeze. You know what this tells me? And I'm sure someone else was like, oh, that's terrible. All this tells me is that they got a message or a letter or someone from the SEC went to Binance's office in the United States and basically said, okay, pay us and we can make this all go away. Do you think that the SEC is trying to seek a compromise, or do you think Binance is trying to seek a compromise? Binance has been basically asking for regulation as well over like 2.5, 3 years. More or less somewhere around there. They've been very vocal, especially on Twitter, saying we are more than willing to work with U.S. regulators if you will actually work with us. And you would sit there and think that Binance is simply the only one saying it, but nope, it's been Kraken, it's been Coinbase, it's also been Gemini, it's also been Ripple. So who do you think is actually seeking the compromise? Who do you think is asking? Binance has probably been asking for regulation for a while. The SEC says we're going to freeze all of your funds, and the compromise will come down to, okay, well, you pay us this much, you sign this amount of paperwork, and basically this all disappears. That's why I said this news is very cringe. It's like open corruption. It's not even hidden anymore. Like at least before in the past, we would hear that terrible things were happening, and then at some point in the news, on the late night news at 10 o'clock, you would hear, okay, they came to a compromise, something happened, you know, the problem is no longer there. So, yeah, I assume they will come to a compromise, wink, and it'll probably involve several $1 million, if not a good low $50 million. If we hear by the end of this year, I swear to goodness, if we hear by the end of this year, that the issues that the SEC has with Coinbase and Binance disappear, it'll basically mean that they had to be paid off. How does this place exist? How does the SEC continue to function when everyone, and I mean it's everyone, knows exactly how corrupt they are? I truly myself do not get it. Also in the news that should have been major news, but I think no one paid attention to this, and it's fine. The world around us is lightly crumbling, and the SEC and cryptocurrency market news is incredibly prevalent. However, this is one of those moments where you hear the news and you really need to absorb it and understand exactly how significant this actually is, or you will basically be missing the train. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says the Bank of China, yup, that one, has issued $28 million in digital structured notes on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Years ago, I've said this so many times and I'll keep saying it again because I really don't care. I want everyone to really understand what's happening in this market and how I think a large number of people are being duped into paying attention to other news that doesn't actually matter. When we get tons of news about accumulation from these companies and these governments who are actively buying up cryptocurrencies and they're mining cryptocurrencies, and then the news of FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried being the biggest monsters on the planet surfaces, and I'm telling everyone, don't pay attention to that. It's meant to make you afraid. Have any of you noticed there's no Sam Bankman-Fried FTX news anymore? Remember, he was like the biggest devil in the entire world, and everyone was supposed to be terrified of this man who was supposed to be, a criminal mastermind genius, and they had tons of documentaries and stuff. You realize you hear nothing about him now? So, in the same kind of fashion, while we hear, there's also, I don't have it in here, but there's also like whale accumulation news as prices fell down. Tons of whales were buying tons of Ether. They were buying tons of Bitcoin. You name it, these coins were being gobbled up. The news of the Bank of China, the same country who banned Bitcoin and crypto and yada yada within their borders, actually used the public Ethereum blockchain to issue $28 million worth of notes on top of. Do you understand the significance of that? Do you understand that the Bank of China did not create their own blockchain? They did not create a fork of Ethereum to use. They put it on top of the Ethereum blockchain. They chose this one coin out of 10,000 other coins that are currently out there. Do any of you believe that this is the first time that the Bank of China is using the Ethereum blockchain? How many of you, with a show of hands, probably assume that the Bank of China probably also owns Ether? Why would you be putting it on this blockchain unless you have something to gain from it? I saw this news and I literally, I didn't clutch my pearls, but it was definitely one of those like, the world is changing so rapidly around us. And the news of one of the largest markets, countries' GDPs on the planet, is actively using the Ethereum blockchain in this way that we publicly know about is monstrously huge. But it's the same exact thing when we get news that there are 15 different countries who are mining and using Bitcoin through active daily trade. We know that this is a thing. We've gotten news about it before. I've shown you the videos and the articles, etc., etc. But then the news pops up. Oh no, something terrible is happening. Prices are dropping. I don't know. I think maybe we'll just move on from this entire topic, but it's definitely one of those. Here's the actual article, because this was in conjunction with the bank UBS when it came to digitizing all of these things. I constantly wonder if banks, I'll try and say this quickly and then we can move on. I'm always wondering where the end game is for a lot of this. We've been lied to for a very long time by nearly everyone who's now in the cryptocurrency space, banks and governments included. But then also you get the news that we know that the US government also holds and owns Bitcoin. Like they have a huge portion of Bitcoin. So where does the doubt actually come in a lot of people's minds that people don't believe that this is going to be something monstrous or huge? Why would the US government, why would the Bank of China, why would they choose these cryptocurrencies? Why would they choose crypto at all? Why not make their own digitized coins, digitized tokens? Why not make their own blockchain, make a stable coin, and simply trade on top of those? We are going to enter a period of history where we hear openly, or rather, when this becomes more public knowledge. I mentioned that before in another video, and I think people didn't maybe get what I meant. When it comes to like actually going mainstream, it's more of a where the news is coming from as opposed to the news is actually out there. And when the public does find out or does care about the fact that governments are holding all of these coins and are doing things on top of these blockchains, the prices of these things will be so unobtainable for anyone that it'll basically become more of like a myth. It's kind of like the idea of going back to 1970 and buying a gigantic brick of gold and then taking it with you now and it's worth, what is it, $200,000 or something along those lines? I don't know. Anyway, the point is I feel like governments are definitely accumulating. It never makes big news, and I don't know why. I don't know why the mindset of people within crypto is simply follow the bad news, follow what makes you sad, follow what gets you riled up and you have arguments on Twitter with other people about. If we all paid attention to just the positive news, which is usually 99% of the news except for the last couple of days, because of the SEC, we'd be in a completely different mind space and also in a very different market. But people complain about everything. They have a problem with everything. There's always an issue with something. And it's like, I just told you that the Bank of China is using Ethereum. And I assume there's only one person out there who's watching this right now who actually cares. And the moment we move on, you will have forgotten that I told you and showed you this news. And then you'll sit there and go, well, Ethereum's price is going down. It's worthless. I don't want any. You wake up one day, Ethereum's $12,000 per coin. You hear on the news that the Bank of China is using Ethereum. You go, oh my gosh. I don't know. I think maybe it's just a human mindset that I can't wrap my head around, but I find it incredibly sad that we are like this as a market. Same in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. If we had focused more on the fact that crypto was becoming mainstream, as opposed to other people lying to the vast majority of the market that something was wrong with XRP, that Ripple was able to print more XRP, that they could freeze your wallet. Imagine if you had gotten into that market instead of lying to people. XRP's price would have probably risen to $7 or $8, and many of you would have become multimillionaires. But instead, the lies and the fear and everything else takes control. So anyway, that's the gigantic news. That this is about 38 times larger than the Ripple Hinman documents news. We know for a fact that the Bank of China is using Ethereum now. Does anyone care? Gigantic question mark in the sky. Yeah? Let's move on. Right. So at the moment, prices fell down 12, 13, 14 hours ago, depending on how you're looking at the charts. This is XRP trying to move up, and then Bitcoin continues to have these like movements downward, and the rest of the market tends to completely follow suit as well. So no coin is moving on their own. There's nothing. They're all following the exact same trend. Hopefully, by the end of this day, the market has reversed, or we get some kind of good news. We will. I mean, I'm not even remotely hopeful at this point for what the Fed is going to do. I am neither here nor there. They will at some point stop raising interest rates, and when they do, then I'll celebrate. But with all the stuff going on in the world right now, and the hawkish Fed and all this other stuff, I just assume they'll keep raising it until inflation goes down to 1%, and then we can all party again. But at the moment, this is an accumulation phase for me. I can't really say anything more. I think we should be in a very, very different place as a market. I'm not the only one who thinks that way. But until corruption ends, and until we actually get some proper movement in all world markets, we will continue to see prices like this within the cryptocurrency space. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you are all having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.